All content is the property of Nordstroms Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstroms Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstroms Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Well, Russ just caught that paper pretty darn slick
I
that
did.
I slid over to him.
If you were watching on YouTube, you'd
missed
seen
all
that
that.
throw
Yeah,
across.
that was a good paper throw.
Yeah, so speaking of YouTube, I threw out a question about a week and a half ago, and we were talking about the Ram trucks. We gave a little update on the show of what we were seeing happening. The biggest thing for myself and all of the hundreds of comments we had was people want the right to, if you buy a vehicle, we've talked about this before, with the right to repair. Who really owns that truck, or the brains of the truck? Who owns the computer? Who owns the data in the truck? And apparently right now, the powers that be, whatever that power is, they believe they own it because they've got this recall, which has really got a lot of people fuming about it. Some people are like, whatever, and they bring it in, they just roll over. But the majority of them are saying, well, okay, I've got to bring it in. Why? Oh, we can't tell you. Well, then why should I bring it in? Well, it's the law. But you got to tell me what you're doing then. No, we don't. We're just doing it. We're making it comply. How? What are you doing? I think that's a fair question. What are you doing to my vehicle if you say it has to be recalled and there was a $2 billion fine, right? Just tell us what it was. So I asked the question to these people, after you had the recall, if you checked things before like mileage and towing power, what was the change that you saw when it was done? And a lot of people responded. And it seems to be, you can go to YouTube and look at the Cummins recall video we had, but it seems to be the same consensus, and it seems to revolve around the diesel exhaust fluid usage and the way the gauge moves. Even though you're only putting the same amount of gallons in the DEF tank, the gauge seems to go to empty faster. But there's some other things too. I think there's more to it, but there's more of this coming with vehicles and emissions in general, because these trucks, whether it's let's just say any diesel truck, they're trying to keep the emissions down. And with Volkswagen, they were trying to keep the emissions down. So what the government is saying is any emissions defeating device, we don't want you to mess with. But there are many other common questions we have on the show that revolve around things like active fuel management and tuners that will shut those off. That is an emissions defeating device because your car will use more fuel if that's not working. So there's lots of things out there, and I just got a feeling as we go through the future years, we'll see more and more of those things. Probably the largest ones first. It's Dave Ramsey's snowball effect. They go to the big one. The Cummins was a big one.
Yeah, I think they wanted the press. They wanted the press clipping on that one.
Yep.
Are you guys worried about all the fuel they're going to use in those black helicopters too?
I'm not worried about those. They're all going to electric, Chris, right?
They run on fuel? What do they run on, you suppose? That's a great question.
Some promising things I've seen, though, lately that's fun news. Seen a lot more hydrogen being used, not so much in fuel cells, but in actual internal combustion cars. You remember when you talked about that story a few years ago, Chris, with Toyota putting hydrogen in a internal combustion spark plug engine? Well, they're getting better and better with that. And the infrastructure is incredibly small.
Well,
compared to
I think
electric.
it was Shell just announced in California this week they were disbanding their filling stations.
Shell, but
Yeah.
other ones are expanding.
Yeah, so it's a back and forth on that stuff,
Yeah.
and it's going to be that way because it's got to. If it doesn't have on some of that stuff, if it doesn't have government money coming in to support it and
it'll
kick it off,
never go.
it'll never get there. So it's always a challenge.
I would predict that we'll probably have some kind of pour-in liquid fuel in engines for another 100 years of some sort. But I don't know. You never know what the timeline will bring. New discoveries come up all the time.
There you go.
We didn't have cell phones 30 years ago. Basically, they were just barely here, and now
15 years ago, we were talking about how they would have to dig up the road to put in markers.
Yes.
to to self-drive.
And AI a year and a half ago was a joke.
Right.
We never thought it would reach where it was fantasy to see where it is now.
And now I'm not even here again this week, and it's
Right.
just AI.
Right.
Which would not be hard to replace me with AI.
If you didn't know it right now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'd see that I'm doing Chris's voice.
Yeah.
What I do is I just hit the button, and when I talk, there you go.
It changes it.
See?
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Rick in Florida. Rick, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, hey, good morning, guys. I really appreciate you letting me get on with you. I've really been enjoying the show over the last few years.
Thanks.
Learned so much just listening to the different situations that come up, and I like to work on my own vehicles, so it's really helpful to me. So
thanks.
All right. Well, I've got a 2020 Jeep Gladiator Overland. It's got, of course, four-wheel drive. It's got a front and rear differential. I have a limited slip rear on rear end and in the rear. It's got 373 gears. That's inconsequential, but it takes a friction modifier in the gear lube when you do a gear lube change. And I'm about to do my first one at 40,000. They recommend 40 if you do any kind of off-roading or trailing. I guess it's a little harder than just street driving, of course. But I'm finding that the fluids all seem to have additives already in it. At the auto parts store, I go to AutoZone and look at all the different fluids, and they seem to have the additives already in there. But I bought the modifier from Chrysler for the Jeep because I want to make sure I follow the specifications with the warranty to make sure that stays in effect. Can you put too much modifier in? If I mix this bottle that I bought from Chrysler with my fluid, it's already got additives. Am I overloading it? Is that a thing?
I wouldn't add it if it comes in the lubricant you're buying. And this has become very common, I would say, over the last 2 years. We're seeing more and more of this out there. The fluid we have in our own shop, it says right on it now, friction modifier included, because it's not going to hurt a rear end that doesn't take friction modifier, but it's mandatory for one that does require it. You'll get the chatter when you turn because of it. So they're starting to put it in there. I think it's it's a good thing because it's necessary. Like for your vehicle, it's necessary for a lot of the Fords. Some of the Chevys had this too. It's a necessary additive to have, and a lot of people aren't using it, and they're confusing a complete rear end failure and maybe even putting one in on some occasions because they don't know that it was just that. So I think it's good, but I also think it's a good profit center for the lubricant companies, because if they can sell every bottle with it in there and none without, then they just make one bottle, one brand, one thing. They can reduce their cost because they're putting it across the board of everything instead of having to use two separate products.
And then they raise the price accordingly.
Then they raise it up a little bit, but not so much that it's going to be like, wow, I had to buy friction modifier, but it also raises the price for the people who don't need the friction modifier. But it's also like an additive. I believe that it helps protect a little bit. That's just, our own opinion in there. But for us, your answer to your question, no, we don't. When we use that fluid, we don't add any extra modifier to it. You can always get too much of any additive. I know it's very important with all our companies we use for any kind of additives like Justice Brothers. Put the recommended amount in. If you put too much in, it can either not work any better. The additive, so let's say it makes it X amount better. If you put twice as much in, it's not going to make it better. And in some cases, if you get too much compared to the ratio of oil, it might make it worse. So you want to mix it right. Imagine dish soap. If you have a gallon of water and you put in a cap full of dish soap, you've got nice soap. Well, what happens if more is better? Let's put 3 bottles of dish soap in your gallon of water. It's going to be just sticky and not really going to do what you want because you don't have that action of the water to move stuff. Same way with the additives. You want just the right mixture. So
and Chrysler, Mopar, however you want to say it, when they offer their factory additive, I find that interesting because apparently they put that out there because their factory fluid is not built in with the additive. Because in the factory,
$60 a quart.
yeah, and at the factory when they put it together, I would assume that if it doesn't have a limited slip, they don't put it in because they need that fluid to be non-modified. They don't have the trying to sell extra; they're trying to save some extra cost. So the engineers say, you know what, this is what we designed it with. This is what it needs. In these particular ones, they probably put the additive stuff in there. Or else at the factory, I'm sure they have a factory fill that comes for that vehicle with the additive in it. They don't sit there with little bottles and suck them in or pour them in at the factory. But that's, I'm sure that factory additive is designed to coincide with the factory fluid that they offer. And when the aftermarket takes care of it, you would not need it.
Does that help you out there, Rick?
My good answer for that. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
If your Band-Aid can is empty because you have so many dash lights on, you need to call Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. What else has caught your attention?
How about...
I was just going to make a comment. You guys made
bring it up.
The comment about artificial intelligence and that Chris was...
Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence is... it's named that. It's a good name. I've known a lot of people in my life that had artificial intelligence, and they were also fun to talk to, but I didn't believe much of what they told me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's all artificial.
Yeah, so it's kind of in line. You know, you start looking at some of these AI generators and you start asking it things that are known things and certain facts it can recall and other ones it just can't.
And you've known people where you're like, oh, that guy seems smart. And then the next person could go, yeah, it's not.
So I just started thinking of things
artificial.
George Carlin's one of his best lines ever. You know the one. Are you familiar with George Carlin?
Sure.
He's like, he's fairly intelligent. No, he's full. That one.
But I just was
fully
thinking
educated.
I was thinking about that. I was like, artificial intelligence. It's like, it's artificial, and I just think of a lot of artificial things in life. They're delightful, but they don't have a lot of depth to them.
Right. You gotta get past that part.
Now that'll change over time, but it is it's just interesting. I've been reading a lot of comments. I look on X too much, Twitter. I've spent a little time there.
I find the fewer comments I read, the better.
Yeah, and it's just there's just so many people that love posting things that they asked an artificial intelligence generator facts as they're known to us.
Right.
And it just cannot bring them up. And then you ask it something else that's it's all left-wing, right-wing stuff. And you got to be careful, keep a good thermometer in the middle somewhere. But I just thought about that. It's no different than humans. I've met a lot of people that have a lot of artificial intelligence, and I love talking to them.
Yeah,
I just don't believe much what they tell me.
You gotta gauge that. You gotta double check that stuff. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Joe. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Joe, what can we do for you?
Got an 05 Chevy.
Oh, you're breaking up there, Joe. Let's try this one more time. Let me try and see if I can get you there. Joe, try again.
Yeah, I got an 05 Chevy pickup, club cap, 3/4 ton. I know it's a half ton. I got a dash lights and radio light. I can't see the time and the control or radio control.
So your dash lights aren't working.
Yeah,
dash lights not working on the 05 Chevy. So
dash lights and radio lights. Both.
Yeah. So there's two separate parts of that circuit, one that dims it all and then one that illuminates. So you've got your LEDs that are in your instrument cluster and behind the radio panel, and then you've got some lights in the heating and air conditioning controls, and you've got the switch. So if you've replaced that switch already and it didn't do any good, you do need to get a scanner out and look at the lighting portion of the body control module, because the body control module is what sends out the pulse width signal in order to illuminate LEDs, because LEDs on those dashes, they don't dim by lowering the voltage. They dim by changing the pulse width modulation of the light. So therefore, like a tail light in a lot of these new cars, when you look at them, if you've ever watched a car not on a movie, but on TV, like on a regular news channel or on YouTube, and you see the tail lights blinking really fast or the dash blinking, that's the pulse width modulation you're seeing. And they use different cameras and they use different video generators in movies and on TV in order to make those solid. But the way a tail light works is it's a tail light and brake light, but it only has 2 wires, one power, one ground, and it has the light on more often to give you a brake light or a turn signal and less often to give you a tail. So it's just one bulb now. Same way with your dash. So everything's going through that body control module. And if you have a failure in the body control module, that'll cause your lights to be dead. That's one possibility. And the switch is another possibility. Also, a big old mouse getting in there and chewing on your wires. That's a possibility too. But it's just got to be diagnosed one step at a time, and it will require a body control scanner to do it.
And if you happen to have a bunch of stuff laying on the dash covering up the light sensor, just for fun, just make sure that
nothing on your dash.
Nothing on
Keep
the dash.
Clean.
Clean up. Make sure there's nothing covering that light sensor, and make sure that the dimmer roller is all the way up. Brighten it all the way up and see if it makes a difference. Even turn the interior light on and see if it makes a difference. Just see if you get any changes on there.
Does that help you out there, Joe?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know like a scanner could do that, or to get a scanner for that too. So I didn't know that happened.
Look in there in the lighting. It'll show your dome lights and your dash lights and things like exterior lighting, some of those things.
Joe, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tom, what can we do for you?
Morning. I've got a 2017 Camaro SS with a V8 and the 8-speed automatic transmission, and I just barely got over 10,000 miles on it, so super low mileage. And just at the end of last fall, prior to putting it in storage, I just started to feel a little bit of the transmission shudder, which I've read some about. Apparently there's some issues with those 8-speed automatics from that vintage. And in some research I've done, they talk about transmission fluid flush. And if that doesn't solve the issue, I might be looking at a torque converter. I'm just kind of wondering what your experience is in that regard.
Well, I had personal experience with it. I brought this up a few times in a Silverado truck with a 6.2 and an 8-speed, and it was the same era. And they had an issue where I'm pretty sure it's the same transmission. They had an issue where the assembly lubrication that was used in building the transmission did not jive well with the factory fill fluid that they put in there, and it just caused some issues with the torque converter shudder. And what you experience is they gave it a nickname, rumble stripping, and some different things. You'd be going down the road and you just feel a little vroom, 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 where like you're driving over rumble strips. Yep. And if you watch close, you can see your tack jump like 200 RPMs, 150 RPMs. Not very much, but you could just see the tack bounce a little bit when it did it. And it took me a bit to figure out what it was, and then that's when we started hearing more about this. And at that time, I was still under warranty, and the dealer for GM, they did it twice, but they had a procedure that's spelled out by General Motors to use, and then they refill it with a Mobil 1 specific fluid that they feel much better about, apparently, than what they put in there from the factory. And it took care of mine. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought for sure I'd be tearing the transmission out and putting a torque converter in it, but after 2 of those flushes, which aren't cheap, I mean, Russ, aren't they $200-$400? Yeah,
and we use it. Schaefer's in there, and our friends over at a transmission shop here in town use it as well, and that's the same type of thing. It's an upgraded fluid, and you're getting rid of what's in there, and you're putting in it. And no matter whose upgraded fluid you choose, you just want to upgrade it, get rid of that factory fluid, and flush out all that original assembly lube. And it's time for a transmission flush because of the age so much anyways, and that not the miles at all with the low miles. But I would start with that, and if it gets rid of most of it, but there's still a slight hint of it, there's some transmission shops that will do a custom programming to those to change the pressures just a little bit to preserve that transmission. And so far, it's worked well for us, and we've had them last.
Do they tell me that if I bought that car,
no,
or do I just have to go figure it out?
No. You got to figure it out. It's out of warranty, so what do they care?
We got to be quick here. It's a fun car. I think it's white. Chris, what do you think?
I don't think it. I don't.
It's blue.
I'm going to recuse myself because it's a 2017.
Okay. All right. What color is your car?
It's the anniversary special edition, so it's that midnight gray.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
Well, there we go.
You
couldn't do it, huh?
It's a newer Berkeley One Classic for sure.
It's a Berkeley Classic.
They'll cover it.
I can't partake. I'm going to veto that one.
I moved too fast, and I thought you'd just go along with the flow.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. You tried to sneak one in on me.
I did.
You can't. I'm too artificially intelligent. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
With over 2,000 episodes and over 200 stations, Under the Hood has the knowledge to make your car feel good. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. Don't forget you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Jill Crystal, congratulations from our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. Find them on the web at uti.edu and learn more about automotive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big growing field, and there's a lot of changes in there, whether things stay the same or they change to some completely different thing. They've got you covered in everything. They've been doing it for decades, and they're really good at it, and they work right with the people at the manufacturing plants, so you can be guaranteed that you're going to know what's going on in this car now or what's gone on with it in the past. You're going to be trained properly to work on those things. So visit uti.edu today and find out more.
Let's go to Kentucky and talk to Jimmy. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jimmy, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I know Chevy's is having problems with their lifters, but my son bought a 2015 about a month and a half ago, and he drove it about 20 miles, and the lifters went out of it. But this guy said he had a guy that could take your valve covers off, turn your crank a certain way, and he had a tool that he could pop that lifter loose and then delete the AFM on it, and you wouldn't have no more problems with it. But he's the only one that I heard that I've called 8 other mechanics, and they don't know nothing about that type of work. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they're saying. Well, I'm not surprised that they're saying it. If they don't want to do it, they'll just say they don't know.
Exactly.
But yeah, it can be done, but it's not as simple as it sounds. So many people have been throwing out the news of this. You get on YouTube and things, they'll say, oh yeah, you just take this tool that we want to sell you and you just pull the valve cover off and boop, you're done, you're fixed. What happens with an AFM system? It's called active fuel management. So as you drive down the road, it has the ability to disable 4 cylinders by shutting off the lifters, so there's no intake or exhaust valve open on those 4 cylinders to give it less emissions because it's burning less fuel. It also shuts the injectors off but leaves the spark running. And it's going to save you fuel economy as well as the emissions. So as you drive down the road and this thing goes into 4-cylinder mode, oil pressure is applied through a VLOM manifold, which is a Valley lifter oil manifold. It's under your plastic intake manifold. Oil is directed when the solenoids open up to those lifters. And inside of the lifter, you've got this round lifter, if you've ever seen what a regular lifter looks like, and it's got 2 locking pins on the side of it that hold the center of the lifter to the outside of it. When the oil pressure is applied, pulls the pins in, the lifter collapses, and then the valve doesn't open up. They do it on the exhaust stroke, so it fills the cylinder with exhaust first, so there's burned fuel in there, so you don't have a problem with detonation or anything, and then it pressurizes it and does its thing instead of an intake charge, which would make it shake when it was running. And the problem they're having, now that I've given you way too much information on how that works.
If you guys saw, I was just sitting here staring at Russ.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Good explanation.
These pins wear like any other pin, a pin on a cabinet, a door latch, whatever you can think of. They wear, and eventually the lifter goes ploop, and it falls down when it's disengaged, but it can't lock again and come all the way back up. Or there's a problem in that VLOM manifold, and it's allowing oil pressure to bleed through the solenoids because people aren't changing the oil like they should. That's one reason. Or it could just be because it's a crappy design and it goes bad. But as it's typically oil changes, and it gums up, and then it allows this to stay down. So here's your lifter tool they sell. You turn the crankshaft so that the camshaft lobes move and they're down all the way so you got the most play. You stick it in the lifter and you pull it up, and now you've locked it back in again. And if you're lucky and those tabs aren't too worn, or the camshaft wasn't the failure to begin with to cause this, once it's locked in, you can take the intake manifold off. You can pull that VLOM manifold off in the valley, and you can plug the oil port to it so it doesn't supply oil to these lifters anymore. Put it all back together, start it up, and say, hey, now it's running on all 8 cylinders again, but my check engine light's on, and it runs horribly every time it goes into 4-cylinder mode. So now you have to go have it tuned with a professional tuner, or have it deleted by buying your own tuner for $700-800 to do it. That's how that system works. The fix to make it back to factory is going to be to take it apart, replace all the lifters if the camshaft isn't damaged, and replace the VLOM manifold and go from there. It's just it depends on what you want to do to fix it. But if the camshaft isn't worn out, it can be fixed by either disabling it and pulling those lifters back, or they do have a kit that comes with a camshaft and lifters and a disabling tool so that you can put a cam and lifters in it that are not AFM, and then you plug this little piece in under your dash to the OBD2 port and push the button and it programs it so it removes it. Our question is, in the future, since that defeats emissions, are they going to come after people eventually with those like they do with the Cummins recall? I don't know, but I know a lot of people are doing it, and it's saving a lot of people a lot of money on these engines. But I've also seen some people use that tool, pull these lifters up, think they're fixed, they delete the AFM, and then 2 months later, that same lifter or another one falls down because their tabs are already worn enough that immense pressure from the valve spring pushing on it pops the lifter down again, and they take it all back apart again and try to pull it up. And after, the more times you do it, the more wear there is, and eventually it's just not good. Like anything you've ever had that's a tool or whatever, once it starts breaking and you snap it back together, it's weaker every time. So yeah, it's a tough decision, but you can't just pop the lifters out without
trying to set a worn out mousetrap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to you've got to pull the cylinder heads in order to replace the whole lifter. So people are trying to avoid that. So does this work? Yeah, it works for about at least 50% of the people, where they've been able to pop that up, snap them back in, and disable the oil manifold. And that is something that mechanics, if you're fairly mechanically inclined, people are doing at home.
Opinion, Russ. And we've given this guy like a boatload of information here, and others too. If this vehicle did not have this system, would that lifter
never collapse?
The lifter wouldn't have worn out.
Nope, the lifter never collapses because it's got a spring.
It's not designed that way at that point.
It's a hydraulic lifter with a spring in it, but then it's also got another piece where it drops it down a little bit of room to shut it off.
But even if you, I guess maybe I'll try it again. If you would have disabled the AFM when it was brand new, would the failure been as prominent, or you still have the opportunity for failure?
I have still seen people that have disabled them. Our customers have disabled them when they were brand new, and they've still failed because of the years of, there's just enough play on that lifter as it moves up and down that it's banging on those lock pins all the time. Just, maybe a part of a thousandth of an inch, and it's enough that it wears those out even if they're not being used. But people swear by it. Some people say, hey, I'm just going to program it so it never shuts it off, and they said, hey, I've never had a problem. I'm going to do this in every vehicle I own. And if you feel more comfortable, do
because I've seen people that have done that and they've still had lifter failure because it's still that same lifter, and they're getting run up and down, and poor oil changes and extended oil changes are going to cause the same problems.
Yeah, see, so what can happen is if you disable it and you shut it down computer-wise, like you said, Shannon, when you buy it brand new, if from not changing the oil and just years of wear, if one of those oil solenoids starts leaking a little bit of oil in that VLOM manifold, the pressure still goes towards the lifter, even though the computer's got it shut off, and it puts just enough pressure on those tabs that they pop and it drops down. So you would have to, I think if you bought it brand new, here's my thought on that. If you bought it brand new, pulled the intake, pulled the VLON manifold, and plugged it, put the block-off plug in it so it can't supply it oil, I think it would last much longer than if you just disabled it with the computer. But again, they're still there waiting to fail. They're moving. They're getting banged on all the time.
I don't know if that helped you at all there, Jimmy. It kind of gave you the story, but...
well, if you delete it, they void your warranty. So you can't do it on a new one.
No, that'd be a choice you'd make.
Correct. And if it's in warranty, then they have to fix it.
we were kind of leaning towards your 2015 here.
What you want to fix
thoughts.
with yours. And can you save some money and do it? You know, people have done it themselves and saved money on it. Yeah, I mean, you might get by with half of what you'd do to fix it.
Just make sure you understand the whole story of what needs to be done.
Yep.
Jimmy, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. We'll be back in just a minute.
Look, up in the sky. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No. And who cares? We're down here, driving cars. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Patrick in Tennessee. Oh, we got Patrick? We do not. We do. Do we have Patrick, are you there? All right, hold on.
Wow.
Now I see what's going on. Patrick in Tennessee, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I have got a 2014 F-150 Limited, four-wheel drive. It's got just over 200,000 miles on it. I mean, I keep the maintenance on. I'm real picky about my truck. I've got and it's always done it, and I can't figure out why. I've asked the dealership, the guy at the service department. He says his does it too, so he wasn't real worried about it. Right? Every time I go over a speed bump and I accelerate again, I'll hear a loud clunk. It's like the rear end is the drive shaft is catching up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's got a two-piece drive shaft in it with a big knuckle in it or what. Have you heard anything about that, or do you know anything about it?
Well, over time, we've had certain models of vehicles. I'm not going to say this one in particular because I don't know for sure, but where they would have problems with either a bushing that would get loose in a transfer case, or they would have a spring with a block that would shift under torque, just the way that they designed it. Things were moving on them a little bit. An eyelet in a leaf spring shifting with a bushing. It'd just be enough where when the pressure's moved, it would go just a little bit of a thud coming from the rear axle assembly, the rear area of the truck. Now that truck, did you say it was a crew cab short box, or what is it?
It's a limited.
Yeah,
it's crew cab short box. All the bells and whistles.
Yeah, so that's just got a single rear drive shaft that goes from the axle to the transfer case. There's not a two-piece anything there. It's an aluminum drive shaft. And you were describing kind of like it's like some drivetrain whiplash, just trying to catch up, wrap out, trying to catch up is what it feels like, you said.
Yeah. I begin to think it's, more in the leaf springs or something like that. It could be like you said, a shift, a spacer or something that's shifting a little bit.
And it's not when you're turning?
No. The only time it does it is if I'm, slowed down and go over like a speed bump or like in a parking lot, I go to speed up just a little bit, it'll catch.
It's hard for me to believe that if the service advisor is telling you that his does the same thing, and you know yours does it and you can replicate it, that service advisor wouldn't be able to go on to Ford and find a Bolton of some sort. You know, it's not going to be a safety recall or anything that would say, hey, if customer complains, because if there's two of you standing right there together that have the same noise, I would guarantee you there's more people hearing that same noise asking questions at the dealership. And that's the type of stuff that usually causes it. Now it's out of warranty now, but I know Russ has had people come up like with things like that. They're doing an oil change and they complain about a noise. And if they want to get real serious about it, they can put the chassis ears on there and you know, you mount those down by those components and they drive it down the road and they can kind of listen to some of that stuff and see if they can zero it in a little bit. Do you feel it also, or do you just hear it?
You feel a little bit. I mean, it's not real bad. It mainly irritates the wife when it happens. She thinks the rear end is going to fall out of it, but like I said, it's been doing it since I've had the truck.
Yeah, they might they might just dig a little deeper into their factory service Boltons and see if there's anything out there. Because if it's fairly common for you and another person, it's got to be something with the leaf springs or the, you know, the way that drive shaft is, or, you know, I don't think it would be in the rear end if it's just going straight down the road doing that. But to feel that shift, that sort of a thing, they need to just dig a little deeper. And if they have to, and you think it's a problem, they've got some other methods they could take. But at this point in life, you're gonna have to spend some money to have it done.
Patrick, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That is, if it's been doing it, would you chase that, or would you just let it do it?
I would have a physical inspection done. I should have said this when he was on there, and just have them next time they have it up for an oil change, have somebody look it over and just make sure that everything looks normal. Mm-hmm. Put a ratchet on leaf spring bolts, make sure they're up to torque. Check everything in that system to make sure nothing is loose. Make sure there's not a spare tire winched up maybe just quite all the way and the thing is shifting up in there. There's some different things that I would just physically look at and touch everything in that area and then see if you get lucky and you found it.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Connecticut and talk to Dave. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Dave, what can we do for you?
Morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I've got a 2015 Toyota Tacoma with 90,000 miles. It's a very well-maintained vehicle. And about a year ago, I noticed whenever I shift into reverse, my backup camera comes on perfectly fine. But if my headlights are turned to the parking lights or the headlight setting, the camera dims to almost where you can't see it. Any thoughts?
What do your dash lights look like when your headlights and stuff are on? Are all of them bright like they should be? Have you adjusted them to where they're bright and dim?
Nope. I keep them full up and they're all fine.
Well, that's what's going on there. There's a part of that circuit in that backup camera. It works off the rest of the dash. So when you apply voltage to that and everything dims, so when you turn your headlights on, your parking lights, and your normal dash would dim a little bit, you can adjust it with the dimmer. You should have the same availability to dim that backup camera bright and lower, because you don't want the thing blinding you as you're trying to back up. I've had some that were broken, and when you try to back up at night, they don't dim, but that's in that actual dash screen itself. We've had a number of them, just backup cameras in general, that had this problem. Either they stayed bright all the time, or they just turned off almost completely when you turn your dash lights on. And it usually requires replacing that screen unit in the dash to fix it. It's just too sensitive to the voltage change as you turn the lights on. That's what we've seen anyways. It could be a number of things, but more than likely that's what's going on, because it sees the voltage coming in, pulse width voltage for the dimmer circuit, and it's supposed to dim that for you. And it should be adjustable. Can you adjust it? Can you make it even dimmer if you turn it down?
I've gone in there, and that doesn't seem to affect it.
You can't dim it or brighten it or anything.
Right.
Yeah, that circuit's probably just dead in the screen itself, so that's what's going on. Does
that mean they have to replace the whole unit?
Yeah, the screen, there's separate components in these vehicles now. Some it's more and some is less. There's certain vehicles like a Cadillac, you can replace the screen, and some of the Ford trucks just the screen, and then there's other ones where the screen and the radio are all one unit, and the older you get, they were of course all one unit. But now
Going
some of
13,
these,
the whole thing, my Toyota, the whole thing had to go.
yeah, sure. I mean, I remember when yours went out. But
Yeah, I think this one might be a whole unit actually.
Yeah, I think that one consists of the radio, tuner, and the dash screen. But I don't think they don't fail so often that they're super in demand. I think they're still fairly reasonable as a certified used part.
Yeah, if you went to Car Dash Part or something, because if you go to get, if this is the problem identified, now I'm going to, before he starts buying one of these, Russ, is there a...
Yeah, you want to know what's wrong with it first.
Is there a test you can do with the scanner to check the incoming...
Yeah, you got to pull it out, and you've got to use a multimeter to check the line coming in that dims it and make sure it's moving all the way from one end to the other, like the factory service manual shows. And if it shows that's working, it's definitely in the unit. But if it's not, then we got to find out why. What's control? Why is it not getting it? Is there a break in the line somewhere? What's going on?
Dave, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. It
might be easier to find a buddy with the same truck
and see if
Could you would that circuit work without programming it?
Yeah, you could plug it in and just put it in reverse, because typically the backup cameras will work even without the units programmed, but nothing else will work.
Yeah.
I was thinking what a first world call that was. What a weird conversation that would have been 25 years ago.
Yeah.
My backup camera?
But then I thought that vehicle's already 10 years old, and we're talking about it not being the original system. We thought that maybe at this point it was already onto the next system where the components were separate.
I think the first backup camera I ever experienced was in a motorhome, in a big RV, not even a trailer towed, fifth wheel. It was an actual motorhome, and it had a camera on the dash with a box, like an old, Radio Shack. I'm talking like a CRT tube type.
Yeah.
Just remember those, Shannon?
Yeah,
They'd sit on the dash of the motorhome. They were black and white, and then they had a big camera on the back. And boy, you thought that's really cool.
That was uptown.
Crazy, yeah.
At that time, looking at one of those, if this was 1985, guys, would you have ever dreamed that down the road in just 10 to 15 years that this would be standard in your dash on any car and be the size of a pencil eraser?
And not an issue, except once in a while someone has a problem. Otherwise, they just work.
It's technology. It's this stuff throws out at us. I mean, we went from, we've got a brake light that's all by itself mounted up on the top of the glass, to a camera, to tires that can tell you what the pressure is going
and
down the road.
Sensors that are beeping to tell you how close you're getting to objects.
Right. I remember the first vehicle I was ever in with that. That was like witchcraft.
What's going on? What's that?
Yeah.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. We would love for you to join us. Give us a call at 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants.
You're listening to the Nordstroms Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstroms Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstroms Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstroms Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstroms Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. Got some calls coming in while the music's playing, so let's get right to them. Let's start with David. You're on the Under the Hood show. David, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a 73 Chevy Highboy 4-wheel drive that I'm restoring, and I want to go to an overdrive transmission instead of the turbo 350 that's in it. And I don't want to go with electronics. What would you have, the 700 R4?
I'd go with the 700 R4 with the fluid pressure lockout or lock up kit in it, so you don't need anything electronic at all. There's a modification done to valve body. It's very small and allows that thing to lock up lock up the torque converter when it gets into the higher gears. You can set it to lock up in third and fourth, or just in fourth gear if you want. Probably if you're going to be, if you're not going to be towing with it, you could have it lock up just in overdrive. But if you are going to be towing and run it in third gear to tow with it, I'd probably have it lock up there too, so you don't have that slip in the torque converter causing extra heat build up in the third gear.
Now, will that bolt up right in between my engine and transfer case, or will I have to move the transfer case further away or closer? Or?
You're going to have to modify both your drive shafts a little bit. The rear one's going to get shorter and the front one's going to get longer.
Sounds like someone that's done this before.
Yeah, I've done that. It's super easy. You know, you're going to move your cross member back about 1.5 inches or so, and then have the drive shafts changed, and that can be done at a driveline shop. It's really not a problem, but it's so much more enjoyable to drive that thing, because if you're trying to drive 55 is really the max that truck should be running the way it is stock with a 3-speed. But with a 4-speed overdrive, you could drive it, 70, 75 and still be okay. I mean, if you really want to push it hard, yeah, you could drive that thing 70, but you're going to put so much more wear on that engine by driving it that fast. It's just that the overdrive overall, you're going to save fuel, and you're going to save a noticeable amount of fuel. It could be a few miles per gallon. So I would definitely go with the overdrive in it.
Do they? See, I'm put a 383 stroker in my truck.
Then you definitely want the overdrive.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuel mileage.
Well, of course. Yeah, and I've also it was a long bed, and I've also shortened the truck.
Well, then you already know about drive shafts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when you shortened it, did you shorten the frame, or did you find a frame? I mean, they never made a short box of that.
No, I shortened the frame with the Brothers kit.
Okay. Did you go to a short box or just a medium box? Are you having an 8-foot or 6? Okay, you went to a 6-foot?
A 6-foot box now. Okay. And I just got all of my parts from AMD for my bed.
Okay.
Well, and I'm sure there's like for this conversion, I'm sure there's folks like Advanced Adapters and things like that they'll for probably a lot of money sell you a kit that would make this a bolt-in easy for you. Probably with an adaptive cross member and the pieces that you need. The drive shaft itself, the output shaft of the 704R is the same as the 350. So as far as mating to your transfer case and stuff, that's all the same. But sometimes you need an adapter. I'm just thinking in between there, if you do or not. But the way it bolts onto the transfer case.
Depending on which transfer case is in it, because if there's a 205 and a 203, and if it's got the 205, that gear case in there, it may have a coarse spline, 10 spline input shaft.
Not very often they'd have a 350 ahead of that, though. They did.
I did.
You did on yours.
Yeah, so to change that, I just bought the adapter shaft from Advanced Adapters. It was like $500, and that was 20 years ago. It was nuts. Hopefully they're cheaper now, but I put that in the back to put that transfer case on the 700, but it's all out there. It's super easy to do, and the easiest way to get your shifter to work, if you're going to stick with the one on the column, is just get a steering column with the tilt, and yours may not even have tilt, but get one out of a newer Chevy truck that's a square body. So like a even like a 90 Suburban that has overdrive with a tilt wheel.
Those columns are bringing a premium, but they're out there.
Yeah. I mean, the last one I bought was like $30.
Not anymore.
No, that was 20 years ago.
No, not anymore. We see them. We put them on eBay, and they'll bring anywhere from $300 to $700.
Yeah. And so if you get one, here's a quick tidbit for you. If you want to buy one of those columns, buy a broken one and fix it yourself.
Yeah,
because you can buy all the pieces to fix it, but most people do not want to take one apart to fix it because they can be a little tricky, but they're really not that bad.
All right, we got to ask, and this is Chris, does this qualify as a Berkeley Classic?
Yeah, I think so.
What color is it going to be?
Yeah, don't tell us yet.
Oh, okay.
So is this truck painted and done on the outside?
No, not yet.
Okay. And if Russ just asked the question, I'm going to repeat it. Have you determined the final color it's going to be?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so we're going to guess the original color that it was.
Okay.
And then what color he's going to make it on this Berkeley Classic. So I think this truck, which was originally brown, like a brown color, and he's going to paint it a really vibrant red.
Okay. I think it was red, faded that orange red that became kind of a weird color, and he's going to go back to the original red.
I think it was originally silver.
Okay.
And he's going to paint it blue.
Okay.
What's the plans?
Well, it was that crappy red that turned orange with two-tone, orange and white, and I am going with midnight blue.
Oh,
Okay.
so we got different answers from different people.
I win.
When you get it on the road, don't forget our partners over at Berkeley One Classics. They insure those kind of vehicles, and it'll save you a ton of money.
Yeah,
I win that one because
They'll even insure it now before it's on the road. And
it's
the parts,
not blue yet, so I nailed it.
I'm sorry, I got to dig just one more question with him.
All right.
I've always heard the term highboy used with the Ford 3/4 tons. Did they all? This is new to me for it being tied to a Chevy. Is that Russ?
I've seen well that one I had, that 76 was the.
Is
was
that
the
just what
tall
people
version.
call it, or do
I think so because there was a off-road version.
Okay,
that was
let's ask
taller.
him.
I don't know what the name was.
Because he wrote highboy on our notes here. Why do you call it that? Is that tell me if there's more to that, or if it's just a figure of speech for you?
Well, from what I understand, the truck sits on 1-ton springs.
Okay.
And I was just told that that's what they called them.
Yeah, the Ford actually had that name for theirs. I don't know what Chevy used, but there was originally I think my 76 was a High Sierra.
Yeah,
and
which
it
was
taller.
but that was the interior and the trim
Yeah,
package.
that was the trim package, but it was also a taller, the 4-wheel drive was the taller truck. And I don't know if the regular one was
because this is
different.
a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive, right?
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bob, what can we do for you?
Well, first I'd like to thank you for putting on the show. I enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have a couple questions on the Fiesta that I bought last fall. It's the first vehicle I ever owned that has no gas cap. And every time I fill it up, it doesn't start unless I push the gas pedal to the floor. And I'm wondering if that's a common thing with these vehicles.
Well, we'll talk about the gas cap a little bit. It has nothing to do with the car not having a gas cap, but the way that works, it actually does have a gas cap. You just can't see it. So inside, instead of putting a screw-on cap, they have a little trap door inside and a piece of rubber to seal it, and then it has two little tabs that have to be pushed at the same time on each side in order for you to be able to open that thing. You can't just get in there and open one side.
Why does that exist? What does that solve?
It solves the problem of people forgetting to put their gas cap on. And
losing their gas cap, having to pay for a gas cap.
And it also helps a little bit with emissions as you fill your vehicle from going. People don't really think about it, but as you fill your car, the action of filling it lets some gases be expelled out the nozzle. If you've ever seen somebody filling in the sunlight at at a gas station, you could see that little plume of vapors coming out.
Yeah.
They estimate that across the United States every year, it's something like I think it's something like 80 million gallons of gasoline or something like that are expelled as evaporation. So they're trying to knock that down.
That's why a lot of the filling stations would have the
cup
accordions on them
Yeah.
that would marry over it.
Some states require that, and like here,
This is like a
nothing.
way they were able to accomplish some of that.
They're trying to make that seal better, and then they vent it through his vapor canister, which is supposed to trap some of that. And what's happening with this car and many of them, as the vapor canister starts to plug over time, and part of this filling action is what does it, because it's running more through it, and like a home water filter, it fills up after a number of uses. The more you use it, the faster it fills. So you're filling the car. Some of that vapor gets trapped as a liquid gets trapped in there. If you've ever overfilled the car, even one time, it can get gas spilled into there. We had a CRV in our shop yesterday that had this exact same thing happen. They would get to the top, it would click off, and they would try to top it off a little more, and it forces fuel down into that vapor canister. And now when you start the car and it tries to vent, it's pulling raw gasoline into the system, and it's flooding the vehicle every time. Sometimes it'll do it just right after you fill it. Other times it'll do it whenever you start it. So the fix for that is typically replacing the vapor canister, which is located under the car. That's we see this. It's very common, and it's not just this Ford Fiesta. It's pretty much most of the vehicles out there. But one thing that we can preventing it is just make sure that when the fuel is full and it shuts off automatically, you stop. You don't add any more unless something's wrong and it only filled it to half a tank, so something's wrong with their filling system. But if you normally put 12 gallons in it and you set it on automatic and it fills, 11 and a half, we're pretty close to it, and it shuts off, just hang the nozzle up. That's as full as it should get, because I can guarantee you if I take a brand new car today and I fill it up and then I try to add more fuel to it, and I do that 2 or 3 times in a row, I'm going to start having problems with it that I can notice.
Do either of you manually slow down the pump as you get closer
Nope,
to make sure
I
it
don't.
goes all the way?
I have one vehicle that when I get within about a gallon of it, I put it not on the highest notch, but one notch down, and it fills it to where it should.
Yeah,
but
you're
I
missing
don't.
out. You're missing out over there.
You
Shannon.
don't slow it down to where I've seen some people that know
right.
it's close, so they slow it down to like a drip where it's just drip, 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 and that will overfill it as well.
I enjoy the stations that it kind of automatically does that on its own.
Where it
It slows itself.
But it only does that if you prepay, doesn't it?
Oh
It
no,
doesn't do
there's
that.
some with sensors in them. Some of the
What?
brand new pumps,
No
like in the last
way.
few years, they've got pumps that sense the vapor pressure coming out. It's usually the ones with the cap on the end.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, you're right.
I'm okay. I'm not going to debate hard because I think I'm right.
But the prepaid ones, yeah, they always slow it down.
All right, Bob, does that got you past that? Did you have another question?
Yes. I'll just say I've never overfilled it. But it's been that way since I bought it.
Did you buy it used?
But yes, I bought it used last fall.
Yeah, all it takes is somebody that did it a few times, and you can junk out that.
Or fills it with the engine running.
What's the damage on that to get the canister replaced?
Canister replacement can run anywhere from $350 to $700, depending on the car. I think this is one of the cheaper ones.
Yeah, I would just press the gas pedal.
There are some, Russ is right. There's so many of these nowadays, they are packaged near the fuel tank, and you got to drop the tank, and sometimes suspension has to come out of the way to get at them. In the old days, they used to be mounted up like a washer reservoir on the front of the vehicle or a pickup, and
in the fender,
you'd have a bracket holding it, and you could unbolt it and change it in a half hour, and the thing cost $60, $80. There's very few like that anymore.
They were mounted higher than the tank. Some of them almost as high as the filler.
Yeah,
like the old cars with the bumper fill gasoline. Remember those, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that.
The Trans Am.
I love my Trans Am with the pull open where it's hidden.
The
behind
vapor
taillights.
canister is higher than the fuel tank and the fuel fill. It's up there in the fender in the front, on top of the. So
yeah,
you didn't have that problem.
You didn't have complete control of it since it was new. And having said all of this, I would always go back to, because there have been bolt-ins out there with certain kinds of cars where the internal mechanisms in the tanks go bad. They have problems with them. It was manufactured weird and it causes problems. But those are very few and far between.
Here's something you could try, though. This car should have a 8-year, 80,000-mile emission system warranty on it. You may get that repaired for free. It's possible. So is it under 80,000 miles?
Yes.
Then check with
about
the dealer.
When I bought it.
Good. Then you go to the dealer. Say, hey, I've got this car, and it'll say right in the back of your owner's manual. It'll tell you all about this. To say, hey, I've got a car. When I fill this thing with fuel, I've got a problem with the emission system. I hear there's an 8-year, 80,000-mile emissions warranty. Does that cover this evaporative canister?
It's a question worth asking.
If it needs to be replaced. And if they say yes, great. You get a win. You get a free one. But don't let them just look at it and say, oh, we're going to charge you $200. That's not covered. No. It was like, no. I want to know before you work on my car if this is covered or not.
Yeah, I've had someone tell me they went in for that and they got it covered. And I had another person tell me, hey, I took your advice. I went and asked, but they said it had been abused because it was full of raw fuel. And so,
okay.
The other thing that'll make it full of raw fuel, which is not abuse, is if that vent valve fails in there, and they're not perfect. They can be junk too, but if it fails, it will fill it and make it look like it was abused. So prove to me it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, next question, Bob.
The date on the display screen on the dash is incorrect, and I can't find anything in the manual on how to change that. Is that something a dealer would have to do?
No, you can do it yourself, but you're going to have to find the procedure to do it.
It's there somewhere. Yeah.
They on YouTube will show a nice visual way to do it, show you how to do it visually, so you can kind of follow through with them. Reading in the book, I mean, it's through the information center where you program your settings on your vehicle. You hit the info button and then you got to program it. But it can be done. The dealer does not have to do it. I would imagine if they do it, it's not going to be as cheap as if you did it yourself.
I would imagine. Yeah.
I would go back if you bought this from a dealership. Go back and talk to the salesman and say,
I bought it from a used car dealer.
Oh, they might still be able to help you.
Yeah.
If you're not somebody that digs on the internet a whole bunch, just go back over there and say, hey, could you help me figure this out? And between you and them, if they look on the internet a little bit, they'll find it.
A perfect example is Russ. If I brought this car to Russ and said, hey, I can't change the date,
I'd just change it for you.
You would find out how to do it and change it, right?
I just
for Chris, he'll do that.
No, but
for
him, he would find out.
If all of a sudden we had like 50 people a week coming in, I'd be like, no, but.
And then he would come in here and go, hey, look what else I found about Ford. That's what he would do.
I understand.
But, anytime we've put an engine in for somebody, if they come in and they have a question about anything on the car, maintaining it or something, we're going to answer it for them, try to keep them going. We want to help them maintain their car.
I was just trying to get across the point that it's not the set your dash clock and VCR service for free all day long.
Yeah, sure. Bob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Vermont and talk to Roy. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Roy, what can we do for you?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good. Awesome. So I've got a 2009 Tacoma I've called in the past. And what I'm having is what I would call intermittent power steering loss. And it seems, so basically my big question is it the pump or is it the rack? And it seemed to start last summer when it was really hot outside, and I would drive for more than 20 minutes, and it would feel like you're used to putting in a certain amount of input when you take a turn, and then I would be going around a corner or about to take a turn, and the wheel would be very hard to turn, and so I would power through it, and it's not jerky. Like I've had pumps fail in the past where it grabs and lets go, grabs and lets go. It's really not like that. It's really more like sometimes it has power steering and sometimes it doesn't. And so because it really seemed to be temperature dependent last summer, I deduced that the fluid thickness may have something to do with it. So I replaced all of the fluid with Lucas power steering, additive, like that super thick stuff. And that really seemed to work for last summer. The issue almost entirely went away or went away entirely. And then when winter came around and the temperatures dropped, I replaced the fluid with the OEM fluid again, because every time I would start the car in the morning, the pump would whine from the thick fluid.
All right, Roy, stay right where you are. We're going to take a break.
I got an idea.
And we'll come back to this one. We'll reset, and we'll get with Roy again on his Tacoma. Right now, we're going to take a break. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
That's all you got to do to fix it? I could have paid a guy $1,000 to do that. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe and join the Hoodie Fan Club at UnderTheHoodShow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Tom Cameron.
Congratulations, Tom.
From our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. Find them at uti.edu.
All right, we've got Roy from Vermont on with the power steering problem. Can you reset this for us?
He's got a 2009 Tacoma, and Roy has had some problems with intermittent power steering assist issues. He has noticed it can be temperature dependent a little bit. He's went to the work of replacing the fluid once with a Lucas flush that he did, and then it thought it kind of went away because he was I feel he's kind of in his summer months there, and he was going along good, and then it kind of started doing it again. So then he flushed it again with an OE fluid, and it may have been good for a bit, and now it's back to it again. Is that right, Roy?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
Well, one of the things in generality that we can kind of talk about, and I just don't know for sure that specifically on that truck, but have you looked, do you have any electronic sensors of any sort on your power steering lines or on the backside of your power steering pump?
Yeah, so it does appear that there's at least one and maybe two electrical connections at the pump.
Because a lot of these vehicles nowadays have variable assist power steering.
Pump.
And they put a sensor in line to control, like with a vane, the pressure and the assist that it gives at different speeds. The goal is that if you're in a parking lot, you can spin the wheel easier. And if you're driving down the highway, it firms it back up a little bit so you're not wandering all over the road because your steering is so loose.
Would you say it's like adjusting the pressure on a garden hose?
It would be like a garden hose for those longtime listeners.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, he should have gotten garden hoses for gifts for Christmas. They were referenced so much. How many garden hoses do you have at your house?
Ooh, now that I got the sprinklers redone,
probably
they were
not as
broke
many?
for years. I'm going to use less, but currently, because of the new sod, about 20.
Do you have a lot of miscellaneous valves and attachments and
I got so
sprayers?
Much. I got these little electronic Wi-Fi sprinklers.
Oh, that's going to next level. I didn't even think of that.
Because you have to when you're not there and you got to water it 4 times a day.
So anyway, yeah, and they can do that, and so some of that can be normal, but it shouldn't. You're feeling something that's abnormal, correct?
Yeah, it's very abnormal.
Abby normal.
And to your point about the variableness, I've tried to sort of experiment a little bit, and I have noticed that when at a complete stop, it never does it. It always operates properly. It's only when I'm moving that it'll be hard to steer.
Well, there's a correlation there, obviously, between speed and pressure adjustment.
Steering angle sensor.
And so there could be a sensor that's not giving it the correct signal, and then it kind of wonks out and does the wrong thing at the wrong time. Because the fact that you've been through this hydraulic system like 3 times, there's some things we worry about there with, not using the right lubricant that matches the system, different things could have damaged something. The fact you had this problem before flush number 1, after flush number 1.
Right.
Before flush number 2, after flush number 2, the system's still there. Short of you having some junk components, which, did the system even seem like the fluid was really bad when you did the first flush?
No, it was fine.
Yeah, I think this is an electronic problem that's intermittently jumping in and out, and the temperature could affect that because it affects the transistors inside the little sensors and stuff. Not just the way it's made. Have you ever had a scanner on it with somebody at the level where they can see what's going on there?
No, not for this issue.
Russ, I mean, what do you think? I went down that road, but I don't know. Like, there's other stuff too with the pressure. That'd be real unusual, though, after 3 flushes.
Well, you could get a voltmeter connected to the variable assist. So you're going to have a pressure solenoid or a pressure sensor and a variable assist on that pump. If you got wires to it, that's what they do. But if you're looking at the pulse width modulation to see how much the valve is being opened and closed on the back of that pump, you'll be able to tell whether you've got a smooth pattern with your electronics. Is it opening when you slow down? Is it closing as you speed up and staying that way? Or does it close the faster you get, but then have spikes of opening and closing, which tells me maybe I've got a bad steering angle sensor and it thinks I'm trying to turn when I'm not really trying to turn, or when I am trying to turn, it's not giving me any assist, and then all of a sudden it jerks because it adds extra assist. Chevy trucks used to do that back in the 90s. You'd go around a corner and it'd be feeling pretty smooth with some little bit of resistance on the wheel, and then all of a sudden it would just go to full assist and it would feel like something was wrong with it, and it would go back and forth. So electronically, that could be what's going on there. Some of those, I want to say that Toyota, the default is no pressure. So if you were to unplug it at the back of the pump,
that was my question.
Yeah, it would go. You could try it, because at the worst case, plug them back in and turn the key off and restart it, and then it goes away. But if you unplug them and it does go to full default where it's got full steering, then you would know, because if it's smooth all the time, the problem's either electronically controlling that pump or something's wrong in the pump and the valve's not. It's just what Shannon said. It's all accurate. You're just going to need some diagnostic tools. You have to look at the service manual and see what the normal function is of that valve, what the range of it is, and what the pulse width of it is. And then you have to read it on a meter and see if it's responding right. And if you find out that it's not in the pump, if all the wiring is right, if it's giving you the right signals, then it's the pump. But if it's wrong, then we need to go back and diagnose the electronic section. It's not gonna be a really easy thing you can just find out real quickly, unless you just start throwing parts at it. But the parts of that system, probably the computer wise, everything's working fine, but it's probably either going to be, something, if it's electronic, in one of those sensors, or the solenoid on the pump, or the wiring to it could even have a wire that's not connecting real good at a connector, or the steering angle sensor inside. Those are the most common things to fail on those. But Toyota's pretty tough. They've got a pretty good system. They just don't fail that often, but when they do, they can be tricky. I've got one in the shop right now I'm fighting with after it had a fuel system failure. A pump went out and clogged some injectors, and then it doesn't want to let me program some stuff in it. So it's...
Roy, are you you're in Vermont. Are you prepared for the eclipse? You got your plan all in place?
Oh, yeah. I actually have no plan at all, to be honest with you. Ordinarily I'd probably do something with my wife, but she's in Oregon right now.
Yeah, so you don't miss it.
Ignoring it.
Don't miss it, okay?
I won't miss it. Okay. I'll definitely check it out, but I have no plans.
Okay.
When it's dark,
it's going right over.
Yeah, when it's dark, I'm sure he won't miss it.
He's right in there.
He'll turn his headlights on.
He might have to move a little bit, but it's going to be
him
a good
and his wife couldn't be much further apart in the United States.
Not really, no.
It's going to be dark on one side of the street, and the other side will be light, like it's like a Texas rainstorm.
866-594-4150. Don't miss that, right? Oh, if it's I can't imagine how miserable I would be if I were in the path of totality, like my house, and it was cloudy, and I didn't plan for it. This is my call out for that. You gotta go. Sorry. It's gonna come up again.
Wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
Hadn't even thought about it.
April 8th. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jack. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jack, what can we do for you?
Well, I got a 02 Dodge Durango that has a starter problem. It just hits the flywheel and goes clunk. I had a problem with the crankcase positioning sensor. I replaced that, and that's what I think caused the problem. So is there a certain way them things go in?
Well, when they go on, you've got the ground to the block of the engine there, but the big battery cable goes to the heavy starter terminal on it, and it's got to be clean and tight. I've seen some of them get a little corroded and don't make a good connection. And then the small terminal is what activates the solenoid and gives you that clunk. So it's either either the starter's failed, and that can happen from taking the wires off it. They just go bad inside. We change a lot of engines out, and I would say the one thing that fails a lot is we put a lot of starters on as we're doing engines, because once we unbolt them and bolt them back on, they just don't work anymore. Or the terminal's corroded and it just breaks off when we take it off. But sometimes just moving a little bit, the little twist that it gets of unbolting and tightening it, moves it enough inside that now it's hitting on a corroded dead spot on that contactor in there instead of on a nice, smooth, worn, shiny brass contactor. So it may just be a bad starter.
I kind of want to dig back a little bit here again, something you said. You replaced a crankshaft positioning sensor and then this started?
Yes.
Is that the one that has the sensor in the back of the block?
Yes.
That should not have been related.
That's up top.
Yeah, that should not have affected the starter at all.
Unless you mess with the starter wires.
Yeah, unless you were moving harnesses around and torqued on something a little bit.
The only wire I moved was one that connects up to the sensor.
I don't think these are related issues at all.
Okay.
I think it just might be a bad coincidence in your life with your
If the
Durango.
wires haven't been off of the starter, it's probably just a bad starter.
And it
put one on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so I mean
318 Durango.
And then of course you want to, when you have the starter off, because you're going to have to check voltage, check it out, make sure that look at the head of the starter that comes off and make sure it's not all beat up or it's been crashing on the flywheel, because we've seen some issues that just come up with there, and then you'll have spots where it hits, but that usually will give a different kind of noise. But you do want to inspect that real close when you've got it apart. But hopefully it's as simple as a starter, because that is probably the most affordable thing to do right there. I'll tell you a little something about a starter and a flywheel on a pretty new vehicle when we get a chance here before the show's out.
Jack, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Do you want to talk about that quick before we talk to Josh?
Well, I do. And I can put some pretty damning pictures on our Facebook page of what happened to this young man that works for us. But 2017 Chevy Traverse with only like 30,000 miles on it. And as you look online, we've seen a few other people talking about this, but just totally chewed up the flywheel from the auto start stop engaging in and out.
Okay.
And they double checked.
That's not normal.
No, and making sure nothing had been hit or adjusted, and they're going to dig a little deeper, but this flywheel was really beat up. Like I said, 36,000 miles on it. And just from the starter engaging in and out, something wasn't lined up from the factory or whatever it might happen to be.
Just out of warranty too?
Yeah.
And that is not normal. I mean,
no, there's plenty of vehicles out there with auto start stop, and they've been clicking along for a while. But this
at our
is
shop,
first
we
one
have never
I've
put one on.
First one I've seen, but it was
chewed itself
I got the
up.
pictures. It's pretty nasty.
I can imagine. Yeah, we've put a lot of starters on over the years, but we have never put one on a car that had auto stop start. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, they had to go back out to his father-in-law's shop, and they did it on a weekend. They dropped it down and put a new flywheel in it, and that's not a cheap fix if you had to pay somebody to do it.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Josh here on the Under the Hood Show. Josh, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, how you doing? Calling on a 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee that I bought a few months ago off Facebook. Bought it, had some problems. One of the major problems it had was a cooling system issue. Long story short, found out that the radiator was leaking and did some other service to it. One of the things I did was a transmission service, dropped the pan, replaced the filter gasket. And one of the things I'd found with those 42 REs and some of those other late AMC and Jeep or Chrysler transmissions was the band adjustments and the throttle valve cable adjustments. I ended up trying to do something with the throttle valve or the cable, broke the connector that connected to the throttle valve on the top side, not the transmission side. Ended up having to get a whole new cable, and I don't know. Is there a way to get the adjustment on those throttle cables just right? I can't seem to get the line pressure to be where it should be. It either shifts way too early, way too late. It slips going into gear, and I don't know if that's a cable issue or if that's more of a band adjustment issue. Do you guys have any input on that?
Well, the first thing you do is get the bands adjusted and then adjust that throttle valve, the TV cable. That is supposed to be self-setting. You pull it out and then you push the throttle pedal all the way to the floor slowly, and it should click and back where it goes. And then with all that done, it should operate. But if there's been some wear on the transmission and you need to fine-tune a little bit and give it a little more pressure because it's slipping a little bit, you can cheat a little bit and adjust the cable so that it's pulling it faster. So when it's wide open, it's pulled so far, but you'll have to adjust it where it can go. Sometimes you can't. There is no more room because you could move the cable back so it's a little tighter and get more pressure, but then you won't be able to accelerate to wide open throttle because the cable's already done. But if you find that with someone holding the pedal all the way to the floor, that you can still pull that throttle valve cable out, let's say another 1/4 inch, well, you got a 1/4 inch of play to play with, so you can tighten up the cable, pull it out that much more, and give yourself that much more pressure. That may help. But the first thing you got to do is it's the bands first, throttle valve second, but well, both together, really. You should be doing both exactly at the same time because you want them all to operate correctly.
But you would set if that type of cable has the ratchet self-adjust like the GMs and everything else always did, then you'd set that first.
I've set those a little tighter to make sure that I set it at the factory setting first and make sure it works. But if it shifts too hard, I can loosen it up just like one notch at a time, see if I can smooth it out a little bit, because I'd prefer to err on the side of it being too firm because it's got more pressure and no slippage. But
what I've found is that this year of Jeep, for whatever reason, when they manufactured them, it was like 93 to 95 was kind of one set of years, and then they didn't really change a whole lot in regards to the mechanics and everything else going on in 96 and forward, but like they changed a whole bunch of parts. Throttle valve cable was different. Transmission cooler lines were they don't even make cooler lines for my Jeep, but they make them for a 96, and they route differently. So just weird things like that. But my question in regards to the adjustment of the throttle valve cable then is, you say to disconnect it and then go wide open throttle. Are you disconnecting it from the top side, from the throttle?
Yes.
Throttle body
at the adjustment position, yeah.
Okay, and I'm trying to get it right. I've struggled to follow the forums and stuff because this was a little bit before me. I've tinkered around with cars and stuff, but I've never had to deal with the setting manual line pressures and things of that nature. So in regards to the bands, then how do those operate inside of the transmission? What's the function of them? How do they work? Because I understand the adjustment, I can do that, but I don't fully comprehend what I'm adjusting. I just know that it's a maintenance procedure that should be done.
Yeah,
what does that do in terms of the drivability?
Well, the best way to see that and to look at how that works and on the planetaries and things like that is to go to YouTube and look up look for an animation of how clutch bands work, and it'll show you a complete breakdown. There's hundreds of them, but it'll show you a breakdown with a video of how everything's rotating inside, and then as the bands are applied, what stops and what else starts spinning as that happens. It makes it really simple to, when you see a visual of it, and then you say, oh, that can make sense why that needs to be adjusted. And if this isn't, that's why we'll have slippage.
And this is a specific conversation about this type of tranny.
Right. Anything with bands that are adjustable.
But there are very few that have adjustable bands.
Right. A lot of them are completely automatic.
It used to be a thing with the 727 Chrysler transmissions back in the day.
Torque flight.
Yeah, that was a common thing, but in the AMCs and different things. But in the newer vehicles, there is very, very few that have, as we talk about this, with adjustable bands. This is an old school carryover into these Jeeps.
And if you've never gone and looked at an animation of an automatic transmission current, go do it now and then get back to us, because you're going to go, that's not real. That thing that can't be how it works in there.
And while you're on YouTube, wander over to the Under the Hood Show page and subscribe. Just, please.
Yeah.
While you're there.
And then watch all the videos and
We're
like them and comment.
Under the Hood Show on YouTube. You can find us there.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for doing that, Josh. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Kansas and talk to Clay. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Clay, what can we do for you?
Hey, thanks, fellas. Appreciate you taking my call.
You bet.
I got my boy's car. It's a 99 Buick Century Limited. It's been sitting for quite a while. And last year, the air on the passenger side and the driver's side would blow separately. And I switched out the actuator motor, I believe, and now I can't control the temperature at all.
So it did work before, but you replaced one of the actuators and now it doesn't?
Well, it would blow cold out one side and hot out the other.
Right.
I couldn't get it to do the same.
Does it have, it has a dual zone, right? It's got two sides to it with the levers?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Correct.
If it's got two levers, then it's got two actuators, and if any one of those actuators shorts out inside, it can kill the whole system if it shorts power in there. So it sounds like you've got just a bad actuator in it.
Okay, so I replaced the one on the driver's side under the dash. Is there another one?
Oh yeah, you've got two. You've got a left side, a right side for hot and cold, and then you have a mode door, which is the third one to go face, foot, and floor. And then you have another one that is for recirculation door on there as well. The one that's vertically on that left side there, down low, I believe that one is the mode door, and then the one up top above that is the hot cold. And then there's one behind the glove box for hot cold as well too.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's several of them in there.
And that car's been out there long enough, along with other models that use the same HVAC box underneath there. You should be able to find some good images online that people have shown, or it'd be like I said, YouTube videos or whatever it might happen to be, to kind of get you in the right place.
Is there any kind of fix to avoid it? To just set it? Well, okay.
No way around it on those. I mean, you're just like, I've seen people take a motor off and like duct tape the thing in one position, and yeah, that doesn't work very well. But people will do a lot of stuff on older cars that are never going to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Put it on hot in the winter and cold in the summer, and
leave it alone. Yeah. And typically they'll default to defrost, so you get for safety to keep the windshield clean.
Maybe, hopefully,
it depends on how it's broken.
Clay, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, this is the after show. Let's continue this conversation.
Did you catch that? The totaled Eclipse.
Is that
we went out and found a Mercury Eclipse that we had in the yard that was totaled.
Yep.
And then we got it up on the forklift, and everybody's pointing at the totaled Eclipse.
That is
with their Eclipse glasses
with their Eclipse glasses on when we had the last one. I don't think I have an Eclipse anymore to even do a second mock-up of that picture.
Eclipse?
Well, now there's a new one, right?
The new ones.
Eclipse Cross.
Yeah, we
do have one.
I felt so bad. We just put an engine in for a customer in one of those.
Oh yeah, it was up there. Matt was working on it when I was up there 2 months ago.
Yeah, well, it was gone for like 3 days. And then they said, I was driving on the road and transmission started doing some weird stuff. It's done it before.
No.
What do you think's wrong with it? Like, I don't know. So they stopped in and checked out. They said, yeah, your tranny just went out. It happens all the time. So put a trans in it too. So
maybe the transmission going out was what maybe flared up the engine at some point.
Yeah, they said it never over revved.
Okay.
And it was the same driver that we trust to actually tell us, because some people don't.
They spent some money there. Ooh.
Yeah, but it's cheaper than, still people are like, well, I spent $9,000 on a vehicle. And they're like, that's crazy. I should have got rid of it. It's like, well, what's it worth? Well, 22 is all. Did you just say is all?
I think
okay.
I think our inventory manager, Chad, and his wife, Jenny, have an Eclipse. I wonder if they'll let us pick that up and do a reenactment of the... That's not totaled, though. We'd have to wreck it first for it really to work good. We need a totaled Eclipse.
I think we have...
What if you put the Eclipse, just put it up on the lift in front of the sun? Yeah. So the Eclipse is eclipsing the sun.
That would be next level.
Yeah.
We did it in front of the dairy barn last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have an Eclipse here when we were looking for parts for that.
We've bought a couple of Eclipse crosses, I think.
It's nuts.
I did buy, by the way, going back to our recent conversation, my daughter has a new Beetle, 2002.
Brand new.
And the new Beetle, that's what it's
only 22 years
old. By
old.
the way, that's the designation. If
you're
the
ever new Beetle.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for when you're looking for parts for the new Beetle.
Because it sounds like it's new until what if they decide to make another Beetle?
Well, they kind of did. They redesigned that Beetle, and that's
but Russ, we have that all the time with the Chevy trucks. Yeah. Classic, and they've done the Classic a couple times.
Then the new Beetle, and then the newest Beetle. They'll call it the newest Beetle.
And we looked at...
call this one John.
The panels inside. we looked at the panels.
Ringo.
And you helped me order a very nice aftermarket solution.
Did you figure that out?
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Was the guy right on the thing where he said, well, if they only made it curved, it would.
It is first of all, every part of that door is broken on every Beetle in the world. It is insane how much of it is broken. And they all seem to be that way. Now, the fabric insert we got to fix that it's a mess. It is disgusting. You got to take 10 things apart. You have to refigure 40 things. There is an aftermarket. Somebody is a genius and just invented a 3D printed insert that you can just screw in. You can buy it, and they send you the insert, and they send you like 8 self-tap screws, and you just screw it into the door panel.
There you go.
And that's going to be my next thing, because I did take one panel off to try and put the new thing on, and it was such a mess that I just kind of tightened up the old one, taped it back in.
Oh, you did not finish.
I did not finish. It was ridiculous,
I know
the
what you mean.
process.
I've had a couple customers within the last 2 years call and say, I need a power window motor replaced in my door on my Beetle. It won't go up and down. It just makes that grinding noise. I say, is your window up? Well, yeah. Why? I was like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, well, why not? I said, well, because if I do this, you may not have a door panel. Well, if you break it, you'll have to fix it. And I said, exactly. You just answered my question, and since you told me that, I'm definitely not going to work on your car. But
and the
reason no, they're junk.
The reason the pleather fails is because of the adhesive and the goo in there,
and the corners roll up,
and it's goo. I mean, you take the thing
sticky forever.
I am still trying to clean up the mess in my garage and my basement where I just set the thing, because it just disintegrates and the foam falls apart into like crumbs, but the crumbs are like glue.
You're like Chevy chasing
Like
Christmas Vacation, trying to get the
it's like it's
sap
like
off my
tree sap.
fingers. Yeah,
Just touching it.
It
And
probably
I wore
is tree
gloves.
sap.
I wore gloves, rubber gloves and I had to. You can't even do that. So I'm gonna end up getting the bolt-ons. On the other hand, the handles we bought, those you get those and they go, yeah, just screw them on top of the other ones. Here's a screw.
That worked out good?
Yeah, here, you're done. That's fixed. That was great. But yeah,
so you have handles, but no beauty.
Right. So that's just like me.
You've got handles?
I've got handles, no beauty. Yeah, so that's the although I will say you were right. I mean, I said to you, these panels there's an issue with them, and everywhere I look, there's issues with them, and you go, well, then someone solved this, and there are a million solutions.
There's probably 3 people making a solution and 25 people selling the same solution.
Right, and I think it's probably 1,000.
Did you look at J-Bugs? Because I think they have some new stuff too.
Oh, I didn't.
They have the old Beetles. That's what people think of. But I think they've got some new stuff now.
Yeah, eventually they got to cross over to the new stuff, where they're going to go.
I don't know. There's the old Beetles.
That's a good.
The old Beetles are pretty.
There's a lot of them.
Oh, they're
number one selling car in the world.
There's got to be
for
millions.
60 years.
Yeah,
it'd be hard to get rid of them all.
It's insane how big a community that is. Yeah,
what
you're
I
not
thought
gonna get rid of them
when I had
in a
my
way.
old Beetle, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. This company makes all the parts for a Beetle. This company just makes all the parts. And then I found out there's 40 companies that make all the parts, and there's these huge companies that all exist just for old Volkswagens. There's millions of them. It's interesting to.
Yeah, and
it's interesting.
Some of those they make as fast as 9 second cars and drag cars out of them, and just dune buggies and so many. There were so many Volkswagens. When you say, "Well, I got an old Volkswagen," the first thing that comes to mind is probably a Beetle, right?
Yeah.
Well, they have Beetle. They have convertible Beetle. Then they have the Carmen Ghia, the Thing, the Type 1, Type 2, Transporter, the pickup, the van, the Thing. Just like
and the thing I loved about when I was buying old Beetle parts, they would say, okay, Volkswagen, you have the classic Beetle. Okay. The years on that are 1949 to 1968, and then 1968 to like 2000. There's only two options.
Is it a super Beetle or is it a regular one? It's like, well, what's the difference? They're the same, right? No.
They're the different bumpers.
Yeah.
Over 60 years, there's two different types, and that's about it. It's kind of interesting to see versus and with the new Beetle too. My daughter's Beetle, the parts on that are like 2000 to 2019.
Doing what you've done now.
Mm-hmm.
Got the door handle so you can close it.
Mm-hmm. Not yet. I don't have those in yet.
Okay, but you feel more or less confident that you know the path you're going to take going forward with the rest of it.
I feel 100% confident that it's just going to be broken unless I buy these panels
that insert and just screw in.
And the difference there was the ones we bought, the ones those were like $20 for the two, and the screw-in one is like $130.
Okay,
and they have to they'll print it when I order it.
Oh, somebody's 3D printing it.
Yeah, and they'll just send it.
That
to
makes
me.
sense for a part like that.
Yeah.
That would be a good solution for a part like that.
Yeah, it is. But just taking that fabric, it's basically just a fabric insert that is bunched. It became unhooked and it bunched like any fabric, and it is just the most disgusting process ever. And of course, it's all trimmed out they did it the right way. They trimmed everything out and attached it. Well, now it's fallen, so you don't have any give or anything.
You have some of that funky dry glue dust that's floating around too.
Oh yes, everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, I still have it, and the car's been gone for 2 weeks after I put it back together. It still isn't. Ugh.
Could be how you got sick.
That might be it. I might have gotten
You might have
sick
unearthed some pollen of some sort from
2002.
Well, yeah, just some weird virus that just unleashed out of your door panel.
I had COVID, by the way. That's why I wasn't here last week.
Oh, we told everybody.
Yeah. And I thought I was just sick. And then we saw a commercial for Paxlovid. And my wife...
If it's COVID, Paxlovid.
My wife goes,
la, la, la.
Oh, we do have some tests left in the cupboard. Now,
Were they expired?
Oh, no. And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I can't stop thinking about that. So I went out, I found the test, and I did the thing. And it's been so long since I've tested it. Like my nose I was like, which I've gotten used to over the last couple of years. So I did the test. I put it in the thing and it says, okay, set the timer and check the thing. Oh, it's positive. It was.
You got a line like within 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
yeah.
And then I called the doctor and they're like, you got a positive? I said, yeah. They go, okay, we're not even going to test you because if it's positive, it's positive. So yeah, it was, whatever.
Oh, I'm glad you got better.
Yeah.
Did your radio partner, is he back to fighting strength?
Yep. He had it too. And I feel bad because the day I took the test earlier in the day, I went to the pharmacy and I was like, I'm sick. I got to get some medicine. I said, yeah, my Vicks Vapor Rub, I did find out my Vicks Vapor Rub that I went to use because I didn't feel good, was in a glass jar. And I realized that my mom had bought that Vicks Vapor Rub.
Just say, when was the last time they made a glass
Did it
jar?
not smell because you had COVID, or did it?
It's because I had
did
COVID.
Did Diane? I've never found Vicks, even from really old. This would still feel pretty potent.
This was this Vicks. I know my mom bought because it came from the grocery store in our old neighborhood.
She died in like 94?
93.
93.
So this Vicks Vapor Rub, I thought at 35 years old or whatever, 30 years old, I thought, it's lost its smell. And I went to the pharmacy and I'm like, mine's so old, it lost its smell. He's like, all right, well, here's new stuff. And then I realized later, oh yeah, no, I can't smell anything.
I say, I've never found an old Vicks that doesn't still smell like a pretty strong Vicks.
Well, Chris, you know, if you were working on an old car and you find like a wrapped up McDonald's cheeseburger under the seat,
yeah,
and you go stick it in the microwave after like 25 years and warm it up, it'll smell and look like new.
I'd try it. I'd try to take them.
I think Shannon Nordstrom did that once, didn't you?
What we didn't do was reheat them, Russ.
Oh, you didn't? You got to reheat. You reheated it.
We should have.
Come right back.
We never did that. We kept them in our cupboard for like 8 years. It was going to be a science experiment from our son, and then when it got time where he was old enough, they wouldn't let him do it because of the food part of it. And so, but
okay.
we went and bought Happy Meals from McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's and put them up on the top shelf in our pantry for a number of years.
That's
and
brave.
They shrunk down to like little tiny Barbie size or doll size stuff and still look the same. It was eerie. And the bags had grown a layer of grease, that had permeated up to the top of the bags.
Yeah.
We never tried reheating them though. We should have done
you
that.
reheat them and they'll still smell. I can remember once they were probably 5 or 6 years old that they had reheated, and I was like, And I was just watching a show last night, and it was, "Will you eat this?" And it was a challenge. It's like,
This is you watching this show?
Yeah, I'm watching. It's like, "Will you eat this?" So it's like they put firefighters. I was watching Tacoma FD, and they put they had corn. They wrapped it up, stuck in the refrigerator for like a year, and get it out, and it's all covered in mold. It's like, "Will you eat this?" And people they're sitting around the table going, "I'll give you $20 if you eat it. 50, 100," and they're like, "Okay," and they're eating it. And then,
how much do they have to eat?
Just a big
bite,
giant
a decent
bite, and
sized
swallow
bite,
it and show it. That you ate it. Then the chief comes in. They got a pizza that'd been in there for like years, and it's sitting on the counter, and they had heated it up, so like the McDonald's, and it looked real good. And he walks in, he's like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, that looks good." And he's eating it. And they're like, "No, nobody would touch it." And he's like chomping down. But yeah, that's we see.
Is that an
stuff
actual
in cars.
show?
Yeah, it's called Tacoma FD, and it's just a spoof on.
Okay, but the Will You Eat It is not a show.
No, there are actually.
It should be.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and TikTok, there are people that do that.
Don't go to.
It's horrible, but we find under car seats is bad.
Do you guys commonly reheat
thought he
it?
was
Is that
We don't reheat stuff. We don't pull it out.
just like a thing? I mean,
when we're in cars,
I was scared there for a second.
I know he wouldn't.
No, we have to be careful in cars because when I was at Dashboard years ago, I stuck my hand under a seat and got stuck by something. I went, "Damn it, what was that?" I pulled my hand out, and my finger was bleeding, and I looked under the seat, and there were several needles under there.
That's a big problem.
And I was pissed. And I was a young guy then, and I went up front to find whose car it was, and to find out it was an older gentleman that had diabetes. And I thought, okay, I feel a little better now. Because if it was some young punk, I was going to be probably would have ended well. But so to this day, if I drop a socket or something, I get down on the ground and I look under the seat with a flashlight at what I'm grabbing because they don't know what's under there. But we have seen. In our cars, our customers, in all the years I've been in our shop, one time.
I'm making a new note for our safety meeting just to bring that up as a public. We talk about it before, but
you find it here.
It needs to be commonplace that we talk about.
Since you're
we're bringing in cars that come from tow lots for our self-service. They're cars that have been with people that are desperate. Some of them
cleaning that, and
you're
going in to get rid of that.
We clean them out, and we're digging in there all the time. It's a good reminder for new staff.
And you do find that kind of stuff in the cars. But for us, one time in all the years that I've been, so almost 30 years up at that shop, have I ever found either drugs or needles in a car, and they were under a seat. And I questioned whether they knew whether they were in there or not. Now, we see all sorts of other weird stuff in cars, but as far as something like that, typically the type of customer who's going to come in and get an engine installed and stuff like that, they just, I don't know, for whatever reason we don't see it, or it's not as bad as you think. But when you get into some areas of the country, I know we have friends that own yards in Colorado.
Yeah.
And when they made marijuana legal out there, the number of cars that came in wrecked with paraphernalia and drugs and needles in them drastically increased.
My friend said it was within 6 months, the changes were very evident on the tow lot cars that they get and bring in. The volume of next level stuff that was in the cars once the marijuana law passed, and it was beyond marijuana, but it became more. It just
prevalent.
Took another level of acceptability for this stuff to be so prevalent, and they were very concerned on how to handle that as an industry.
The most crazy thing we've ever found in a car is when I was at Dashboard Electronics with my friend Daryl, and they had I think it was an 85 or 6 Camaro, so it wasn't very old at the time, just a few years old, came in, and we had to work on the stereo, and it was coming from Florida, I think it was, Georgia or Florida, coming up through here, and they stopped in to have some stereo work done on it, and we're working on the stereo. And to do that, we were putting an amplifier in with the. You remember those boxes that would go in the wheel well or the tire well area?
Oh yeah.
So we were dropping one of those in there, and we had to run the power wires down the side under the side cover of the car. And this guy that had the car as a younger kid had just bought it, and when we pulled the side panel off of the car in the back, it was full of drugs. I mean, a lot of drugs. So we just kind of went, well, what do we do? Because we're like, do we just put it back and go? But judging by the kid that was driving it, what we saw, we're wondering if they don't even know they're in the car.
Right.
So yeah, we put it back together, and we just called the people that needed to know about that, and they came and talked and found out, the person who bought the car they didn't know it was in there, and they went and did some digging. But that was our biggest shot. But all the years out of all the cars we've worked on,
a really nice new car.
yeah. all the years that I've worked on cars, I'm surprised we haven't found more weird
snake, python.
Yeah. Weird stuff. I mean, I found we found some animals and dead animals and stuff like that in cars, but it's
we find stuff.
I think more of it is you find stuff.
We find lots of stuff.
We don't. I can imagine. I mean, I'm just imagining, and we don't have to go.
You could have an episode of Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. There you go. That'll do it, I think, for the Under the Hood show.
I got up this morning, walked out. Huge puddle.
What's the date? All right, we got time. I'm going to be talking more about this eclipse.
All right.
Yeah, not today. Though.
Not today. No.
Huge puddle on the ground. And I said, that's not under my car. So I think when I get home, I'm going to be putting a water pump on or a radiator in somebody's vehicle.
Oh, and the Tahoe?
Oh, yeah, it's about 5 feet around, and it was antifreeze. So it's it's not good. Right up front. So it's going to be, it can't be easy for me. It's not going to be a hose. It's going to be a water pump or a radiator. You know what? If it's my choice, I want it to be a radiator. I don't want to do a water pump on that car. And I got other stuff to do.
I think it's going to be a hose.
I really hope you're right, because good luck with your what? I've got a post on YouTube. Oh, yeah.
I did post the pictures of that flywheel I was talking about during the show on the Under the Hood Car Question group.
Okay.
Is where I put them. And I put them out there on the Car Question group, and I said, what happened? And talked about this on the show today, and I posted the pictures out there.
Dan, by the way, let's run through some of this. Dan says, after show, let's go. That's funny. All right. Let's get to it. Greetings from California, Ron says. No rain, nice sunny day. We got one from, good morning from West Africa, Sierra Leone, Freetown. Hi. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there you go. That's
good night in Sierra Leone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably pretty late.
The eclipse is probably over there, right?
It's in April. Listen, you gotta.
I'll gear up for it now that I know about it.
You won't see it though. If it's not a total, you'll see a partial eclipse, and that is the trouble I'm running into with people. They don't seem to be troubled by it. I seem to be troubled by it.
Seems like your heart is totally into this.
Is when people people say they've been to an eclipse, but it wasn't total. It's not the same. It's not even.
Okay, so give me 30 seconds, and then we better roll here because we said we were going.
All right.
Why? Not why. That's too long of a question.
Yep.
Where is going to be the proximity to B to get the true total eclipse?
It runs from, I think the path is Texas to Vermont. It starts in Mexico and Texas and runs northeast through Missouri. I'm going to Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, and it goes through
So
Vermont.
we are not in the prime viewing
I
spot.
believe it goes right
away.
over the top of Starbase down in South Padre.
Oh, that could be.
All the way straight up through Texas, because they were talking about.
So that last one we had here a while ago
was in Nebraska.
We were
the one we had in 17 was about 5 hours away. This one's about 10 at our closest.
Okay, and you are going?
100%.
Okay.
I can't imagine not going.
Are you going to the north location?
No, I'm going down to Missouri, I think.
Oh, you're gonna. Okay.
Yeah.
You're
My
not gonna.
son, who
What day of the week is that?
Monday, April 8th. And he is, I asked him, because we had talked about actually renting a plane in case we ran into weather. We could fly above the weather or get to somewhere where. And he informed me recently that he is not going to be joining us for the eclipse. And he sent me his girlfriend's address. His girlfriend's address in Vermont.
So come here.
And it goes right, the center of the totality path is a dotted line. When you look at the path, it's 2 lines. And then in the center, there's a dotted line that shows you the very center. The dotted line goes over her house on Google Maps. So he said, we're going there. And I was like, can I come there? Can I just go meet her parents? And
not this time.
Hang out
Chris.
at the thing. So they have a big, that's going to be a mess up there, obviously, because it's, city in there.
Yeah, not a lot of room for all the people that might want to come view.
Yeah.
And so too much already. I'll save my question.
No, it's fine. Or is it do we have to go? You don't want to get back into it in a week, do you?
Okay, so with this being further to the east now than the last one, is it even worth it for us to even get excited about it here where we live?
It'll be neat. It's just normal. You'll go, oh, look at the shadows are weird.
Looks like I'm wearing sunglasses today.
It's a little bit weird out there.
So yellow.
Well, we need glasses and stuff like to stare.
Probably won't barely be able to see it.
It'll just be the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll look a little different here.
All right. So
but not much.
So I'm not going to get excited about it then.
No. And it's, so there you go. All right. The eclipse. I hope it goes well. I've been planning this for 7 years. All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Thanks, everybody. April 8th.